This is Ward and Al on Canada Talks.
It is Ward and Al. Ward is away. Dean Young is filling in. And
Hi, everybody.
It's not your turn to talk yet, Dean. I'm joking. Yes, say hi to the people. We were just in the previous segment talking to listener Randy on the phone, talking about trying to get your mom off the phone. And I did say my mom is going to text me any minute because I'm saying she never gets off the phone. I did get a text from my mom telling me that she is never calling me again.
Yeah.
And then I said, no, I love you. And she said, incommunicado. So now she's ignoring me in multiple languages.
I always know if I can hear the wine glass refilling when my mom's on the phone, then I'm going to be on there for a while. I'm like,
That's
this
amazing.
is going to keep going, eh?
Well, listen, Dean, you filled in on this show a lot before.
Yes.
And, we love to talk about the news, but we especially, oh man, I love a train wreck.
Yeah.
Right? When something's going on in the news that just makes you go, what is going on in the world? And conveniently, our next guest has basically put all of those things into one place.
Yeah.
Every story in the news that makes you go, what is wrong with people? She has conveniently located in the hot mess folder. So please welcome to the show the founder of the hot mess folder, Giselle Phelps. Welcome.
Hi, Al and Dean.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Well, we're doing pretty good. Now,
Oh.
what inspired you to start the hot mess folder?
Well, I was a general assignment reporter and anchor in the U.S. for years. I'm from Toronto, but I've been working as a journalist here for, about a decade. And as you know, reporters, we come across hot mess every day. It's a different hot mess every day. So I was actually anchoring in Buffalo, New York, and a reporter came back with a story that was just a ridiculous hot mess. I don't even really remember the details at this point. But I took a manila folder and I wrote hot mess folder on it. And I told everybody, I said, whenever you have a hot mess story, just put it in the manila folder. It was just kind of like a joke thing we were doing in the newsroom. And I took a picture of it and I put it on Facebook, and it really just grew a life of its own. My friends would see a story or see something that was a hot mess, and they say, Giselle, put this in your hot mess folder. So I decided the hot mess folder needed to be an actual place where we could file away hot mess stories and just give commentary on how the news is covered and, what's going on.
I feel like right now, if there is a president of the hot mess folder, it's got to be Donald Trump, right?
Oh my goodness. He is the gift that keeps on giving right now.
Yeah,
It's insane. He's out of control, actually, and I'm starting to think that he's a Democratic operative that's been planted into the GOP to completely ruin this election for Republicans, because he's just that much of a hot mess. I'm sure you guys have been watching the news today, and the Donald is now saying that Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly should be apologizing to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been doing the media rounds. I saw him heard him on the Today Show. He did a phoner with Savannah Guthrie this morning, and he was addressing his comments about Megyn Kelly having, quote, blood coming out of her whatever, which most people took as a reference to her menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
He's insisting that's not what he was referring to, and he's been doing the rounds all day. He's been on every single network you can imagine, and he's acting just so shocked that people would infer that's what he meant. I mean, how could we possibly?
Oh, but what is he claiming he meant?
He's just saying that he was just making a kind of a colloquialism and just saying blood coming out of wherever because she was going for blood with him, and we're all like,
no, that's not how it works. That's not.
That's not how it works. Sorry, Donald.
But
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the idea that he's a Democratic plant is actually a conspiracy theory I could get behind.
Yeah.
Because he, I know a lot of people that say like he's not really running, he just wants attention and publicity and whatever. But it's hard for me to understand like going this far with it. But
exactly.
Yeah, but having something like he's actually a liberal trying to mess things up for the Republicans. That, to me, at least in some way, I can relate. Like, that seems more logical to me than any other possible explanation.
No,
He's
it really
crazy.
does. There has to be some larger strategy at play here because none of this makes sense. And I mean, he's really dominating the media conversation. The media is just loving it. He's become so extreme. And he's turned this election cycle so far for the GOP into a reality show. I mean, I've covered election cycles in the U.S. I covered 08, I covered 12. So I've never seen a presidential candidate make themselves so available to the media. I mean, Donald Trump is doing a phone interview on every network, one after another, every hour. It's like, how does he have time to do all these media interviews? Shouldn't he be, pounding the pavement, shaking hands and kissing babies, like all the other things that a normal candidate does? He's doing none of that. All he's doing is media interviews. And actually, the latest reports are that he is apparently booked for an interview on Fox tomorrow morning, and he's kind of going to go head-to-head with Fox with all his grievances about how, the debate went last Thursday.
I love it that he has grievances about it.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you were crazy. If anyone has grievances, it should be the people who put on that debate.
If anybody has grievances, it should be Megyn Kelly. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, she's now been, the victim of, like, his misogynist attacks. This morning on the Today Show, Savannah Guthrie, again, this is the one that I saw this morning that was just, like, baffling to me. She asked him about a retweet. So, again, if people want to see hot mess, just, like, follow the Donald on Twitter because the stuff that he puts out is crazy. So he retweeted somebody that referred to Megyn Kelly as a bimbo. So Savannah Guthrie asked him this morning, so do you consider her a bimbo? And Donald said, and this is a quote, he said, the case could be made. I was like,
oh, what? Wow.
Yes, I was like, what? So it's just crazy. So,
but you know what?
Cool.
It's interesting to me, too, because a lot of the other Republican candidates say things that I find sort of much more frightening.
Yeah.
But because Donald Trump is basically a caricature of a human being, and he is just like, I'm just going to be blatantly racist and misogynistic in everything I say, it's a little bit scary because some of the other guys have stances where I go, okay, that's really not cool and that's not okay. And they seem to be attempting to be legitimate politicians. So to me, that's scarier. And it's almost like Donald Trump is getting this all attention, but he's a cartoon character. Like, I'm not actually worried that he's going to end up the leader of the free world,
Right, and if that's the case, I'm on the first flight back to Canada because that's crazy. But
you don't want a hilarious president.
No, you don't want a hilarious president. It'd be like Rob Ford being, Prime Minister of Canada.
Yeah.
So, no, I agree with you. I think the difference is, some of the things that the other candidates might be saying, but they're actually referring to, policy they want to put in place. The Donald is kind of just talking in extreme general terms, and that's something that some journalists have tried to press him on. It's like when you go to his website, you don't see any policy forms laid out. You don't see any actual, structure for, how things would be laid out. Those are the kinds of things that you normally see from a presidential candidate. So you can't really take his extremes as seriously because the chances of them actually being put into action are pretty slim, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with the other candidates, these people actually believe in those policy ideas, right? So that's what's scary, is that they, whatever it may be, whether it's, abortion or immigration or, whatever the case may be, when it comes from somebody like Lindsey Graham or Senator Ted Cruz, they're actually trying to see that through fruition. That's
which is scary. With Trump, you get the sense that it's like everything's just sort of a talking point with him, and he just is going the route of he just wants to be a spectacle and he wants to be sensational. He doesn't really believe in anything that's coming out of his own mouth. But
he's a master media manipulator.
He totally is.
Yeah, I mean, he is a great self-promoter, and I don't know what he's really promoting at this point, because he's got to know that he's not going to get elected. I mean, if anything, what he's doing is he's just dividing the Republican Party. I mean, he's just going to spread out the vote, and he's totally killing any chances of Republicans getting into the White House. So, I mean, they hate it right now. They hate it.
Yeah.
And that's why on the Thursday debate, the very first question that Megyn Kelly asked was whether or not he could commit to saying he would not run as an independent party candidate if he doesn't get the nomination, right?
Yeah.
So, they're terrified right now that this guy's just splitting the party. He's going to end up running as an independent, take the votes away, and then, Hillary Clinton's going to go sailing into the White House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope that happens.
Yeah. I think that's actually exactly what will happen, too.
You know what? You think it's probably what will happen, but I think Hillary has a lot of work to do herself.
Oh, for sure.
She's had a lot of scandals, and I think at times she does seem really out of touch. And, it's funny. I'm her target demographic, okay? I'm an African-American woman in my 30s, so I should be, front of the line to want to vote for Hillary Clinton. But, I have a lot of questions, and I do want to see a little bit more from her. I felt like in her early days on the campaign, she was so out of touch, just in the way she would talk about, the Clinton family's finances and them being broke, and that kind of thing. And, you've heard stories of her taking money from, universities in New York State, these huge amounts of money for speaking, and things like that. So I think I just want to hear more from Hillary, that she's more in touch with what regular Americans, minorities, small businesses and stuff are really facing on the ground. So I don't think that she's completely in the clear.
Well, and see, you are looking at this through an informed reporter's lens. Now, on this show, we are in no way journalists.
Speak for yourself, Al.
No, I will not, Dean. I know your resume. But see, I look at it in this way. First of all, I would love it if Bernie Sanders won, but that's not going to happen. So if I have to choose between a hot mess on the left and a hot mess on the right, because I'm a bleeding heart liberal, I'm always going to go left hot mess.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm with you, girl. I'm going left hot mess, too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think to really kind of get the momentum behind her that, Obama saw, with, especially in 2008, she has a lot to do.
For sure.
I mean, we haven't even, I've, forgotten what Hillary's even doing, because I'm paying attention to the Donald Trump spectacle right now. I mean, I can't tell you what she's been doing on the road. All I know is that her emails are being investigated.
Yeah.
So she has a lot to do.
That is so true. Do you have an all-time favorite hot mess story? Just a story where you're like, the more you learned about it, the more you were like, this is ridiculous and I love it.
Well, I've got to say, Rob Ford was the center of a hot mess for probably all of 2014.
Yeah. No, that was...
that was a pretty good one. That was pretty epic.
He was worldwide,
he had to be, because he's such a mess that it went beyond. Well, and I was talking to someone about this recently, and I was like, don't get me wrong, terrible mayor, but I loved that whole time because I love a train wreck. And the fact that that's how we found out that you can't fire the mayor is because we were all because every other mayor, when caught doing drugs and stuff, just retired, and here we found he was like, no, I'm not leaving and you can't make me. And then we found out oh, seriously though, city council can't make him leave.
Yeah.
And, it was a really fun and hilarious time.
It was a magical time, too, because anytime he was on live TV, you were like, anything could happen.
It's true.
Oh, absolutely. And, I mean, the late night comedians were just loving it.
Oh.
I mean, he would do these interviews I saw a couple morning show interviews he did in the States. And he would just be mumbling. He looked like he was sweating. It was just crazy.
He was definitely sweating.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he ever not sweats.
My mother-in-law was in Turkey, and she was texting us, and she's like, I'm sitting at the hotel bar right now, and Rob Ford's on TV here. They're even talking about him. Like, it was just
Crazy.
all over the place. People loved him. I like his retirement move, too, now. Like, how he's just back to city council, and he just permanently wears the red tracksuit now. It's great.
Yeah,
That's his new uniform.
I kind of miss him.
Yeah.
I kind of miss him a little bit. I mean, it was fun. It was a really good run. Those were good times.
Yeah.
They were. I know. I feel like... well, actually, I was going to say, I feel like Toronto really hasn't come together the same since then, but that's not true, because Dead Raccoon did briefly...
did that. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I remember Dead Raccoon.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was a social media favorite.
Yeah.
I know.
Where
Yeah.
was that, on the corner of Shooter and Young or somewhere? By
Church and Young.
Yeah, Church
Yeah.
and Young.
It was like, high traffic. For listeners who don't know, there was a dead raccoon.
Yeah.
Toronto is the raccoon capital of the world. We have more raccoons here than anywhere else. And there was a dead raccoon, and someone at about 8 a.m. tweeted at the city, and they were like, yeah, we know, we're coming to clean it up. And like 15 hours later, it was still there. But by that time, there was a memorial built, there was a hashtag, there were candles. Someone, and this was my favorite part, someone printed out a picture of a raccoon, like a color picture, and then framed it and put it like as if it was at a funeral. It really did it brought the internet and Toronto as a whole together.
Yeah, that's why I love this city, because people make time for that stuff. That's
Yeah,
what we're busy
honestly.
doing. It's great.
Well, the other hot mess that involves the city of Toronto is Drake and the Meek Mill beef. Have you guys been following that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I don't know what's happening with that at all, by the way. I keep seeing references to it, and I'm like, oh, I should look into this. And then I'm like, Drake.
Right.
So,
Well, Drake is really kind of getting a lot of street cred. Not that, I mean, a guy that was on Degrassi really will ever have street cred in the rap game, but, you know, he is getting more cred now because he's really kind of won this beef with a rapper named Meek Mill who is dating Nicki Minaj. So, you know, rumor has it that Nicki and Drake, you know, they have had a little friends with benefits thing going on at one point or another. So anyways, Meek Mill started it all. He started it all by, you know, inferring that Drake does not write his own lyrics. So then Drake started pumping out these raps against Meek Mill, and they were really, really good. And he would, like, just drop them in the middle of the night. They'd go viral. So in the rap game, when somebody starts challenging you like that, you have to come back with something that's just as hot, right? That makes the street talk, so to say. And so Meek would do that, and his raps, they weren't good. So then now Drake had his OVO Fest concert in Toronto last week, and during the show, he had images of like a fake Amber Alert with Meek Mill's name and information on it. And he's been throwing a lot of shade at Meek Mill. So that's the other kind of hot mess talker that involves the six that people are talking about.
It's interesting to me because I will admit this. I don't know any of Drake's songs.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, he's always going to be Wheelchair Jimmy.
Was that actually his character's name?
Well, his character's name was Jimmy, and he was in a
Okay.
wheelchair. So
just Wheelchair
Jimmy.
I like that. That's nice.
But I don't find Drake appealing in any way. And the number of ladies and scandals and fights he gets into with, because remember he and Chris Brown had beef over Rihanna and stuff like that. And I'm like, what is with all these chicks going with the eyebrows over here?
Yeah.
Well, they really love him now that he has like this beard and he's been working out, because the hipster beard, like, chicks love a like light-skinned black guy with a beard for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I
okay,
think,
but
like,
you know what? You know who is a real man example of that? Common.
What?
Let's all get on the Common train.
Yes, I'm with you there, sister.
Common is a handsome dude. For sure.
Oh, see? Yeah, he is. He is.
Common is more than a handsome dude.
Yeah.
Common, if you're listening, call me.
Call me first. Yeah.
Okay, Common, Giselle and I are going to fight over you.
Right? That would be a hot mess. We don't want to get in a fight over comment. Yeah.
Don't we?
Yeah. So yeah, but the ladies, they love Drake. I don't personally get it either. I am a fan of his music, more so, you know, because I'm just a loving hip hop type of chick. I love hip hop, but I don't get the physical appeal.
Yeah.
I think, he might be a little too young for me as well, but
No such thing.
besides that, right?
Well, no, as long as he's over the legal age, then there's no such thing.
Yeah, that's Al's rule.
That's my motto is, well, actually, I think I'm upping my age limit 25 and up.
Oh, that's not bad. That's more of a warm mess.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lukewarm mess.
I'm moving up from hot mess to warm mess.
Yeah.
So at what age
Room
do you
temperature
become a
mess.
cougar? Because I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. It's so funny. A friend of mine, we went on a road trip from Dallas to New York last month, and we were driving. We were listening to all these songs, and like these young guys were coming on the radio, like Omarion and Little Romeo, and we're like, when did they get hot? I mean,
Yeah.
when did they get hot? And I'm like, I feel uncomfortable with this because you're supposed to be Little Romeo. Now you're Romeo Miller, and you have like an 8-pack, and you're hot.
Right, remember when Lil Bow Wow just became Bow Wow because he's like, I'm not Lil anymore, and it was like,
Yeah.
oh, shut up.
Yeah.
He's not even Bow Wow anymore.
What is he now?
Mad Moss. He goes by his proper name now. He does not respond to Bow Wow. He's no longer even Bow Wow.
See,
Really?
That's how you know he's a grown-up.
Oh.
But the first step was dropping the Lil.
Yes. but
I'm
first
just
he got
Bark
the
now.
Lil.
No, but
Wow.
in answer to your question about cougars, I will say this. It is a real mentality, I think. That's what separates the cougars from other women. I think it's when you're in your 40s and you are aggressively pursuing much younger men. And I mean aggressively. I mean going to the clubs in an outfit made for a 19-year-old and aggressively. That, to me, in my mind, is a cougar. If you are a fabulous woman who just happens to, enjoy the company of a beautiful 20-something,
Yeah.
I think that's just being awesome in your life.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
I'm going with that. I'm going to refer everybody to you for future reference. Al says that, if you're under 40 and you just happen to enjoy the company of men in their, mid to early 20s, that is
Listen, even if you're over 40, but you're not trying to pretend you're 20 and you're not getting super aggressive with it, just live your life and be free.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Now,
Have your fun. Why not?
We have to take a break, Giselle. Can you hang out?
Sure, yeah.
Because I would love to keep chatting with you when we come back from the break.
I'll be here.
All right, we're going to take a quick one. We are talking to Giselle Phelps, the founder of HotMessFolder.com, and we are going to be back with more Hot Mess. This is Alan Dean, and we will be back. Sirius XM, channel 167.
Then I'm gonna rip it down any place I be. You can copy, but it's only gonna be one me. I don't got no cars if the man come rim it. 14, I done started up a whole epidemic. Look, you know what I'm talking about. heads or tails. I say no way, try again another day. I should be happy, not tipping the scales. I just won't play, letting my life get away. I know for now.
You're listening to Ward and Elle on Canada Talks.
And you are. Ward is away. Dean Young is in studio with me. And we are joined on the phone by Giselle Phelps, founder of HotMessFolder.com. All the best news that's messy.
Exactly.
Now, maybe you can tell me a little bit, because I've seen some headlines, but I haven't delved into it yet. Of course, very sadly, Kristina Brown, Bobbi Brown, and Whitney. Oh my God, I just blanked on Whitney Houston's name for a second. And Whitney Houston's daughter has died. But
yes,
there's a lot of stuff going on with that family. What is the situation that we're in right now?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, this story, it's cloaked in so much just tragic sadness that it's almost, it's uncomfortable to call it a hot mess, but there is just so many messy elements to it that it can't be ignored, Like the latest today, according to reports, is that Nick Gordon is allegedly planning to have his own service for Kristina.
And now,
as you may have, go ahead.
I was just saying, so now he is her boyfriend, but was he not also raised with her?
Yes, and that's been controversial for years.
Yeah.
So, Whitney Houston basically took this guy in as a teenager. So he was raised alongside Kristina, okay? And then, when they became adults, as soon as they hit 18, 19, 20, they decided they wanted to date. But he had been living with the family.
Right.
So, and then they, had a fake marriage and led everybody to believe they were married, but they really weren't. But they had been living together as a couple in Atlanta. So, up to her death, they had been living together as a couple. So he was not invited to the services last week that the Brown and Houston families held for her. There was a fight that broke out between the Brown and Houston families at the funeral. This whole thing has just been incredibly messy. It's so sad. And according to reports, a civil suit. So Bobbi Brown's legal team has apparently filed a civil suit against Nick Gordon. And the details of this suit that have been filed in a court basically say that Nick Gordon gave Kristina a toxic cocktail of some sort, which made her go unconscious. And it allegedly claims that Gordon then put Kristina face down in the tub of water that, subsequently caused her to suffer brain damage and, which led to her death. So this is what they've laid out in a civil suit, which is crazy to me. That's an epic hot mess. For one, any reporter, any journalist who's ever covered criminal cases in the U.S. would find that highly, highly unusual for an attorney to release details such as those in a civil suit before the possibility of any kind of criminal charges have been fully exhausted. Because if they truly believe that that's how it all went down, then they should be pressuring the district attorney in that Georgia county where this happened, where her death happened, to present that evidence to a grand jury. You would never see that kind of detail laid out in a civil suit like that so early. Because now, I mean, that sounds like a criminal case to me if they really believe that happened, right? So the whole story is really disturbing.
Had the medical examiner even decided how she died?
Well, she died of, asphyxiation from drowning in the tub, right? And early on, there were reports that the police there were possibly investigating Nick Gordon, but nothing's come of it. And again, I don't believe that case has been closed, but I mean, he hasn't been arrested. He's, still at liberty. So generally speaking, if somebody is really the focus of a criminal investigation, I mean, you would know. And those types of details, generally families work extremely close with a district attorney's office if a DA is actively pursuing criminal charges against somebody, right? Because the DA doesn't want these details to get out, because they have to present this to a grand jury in the U.S. as a secret jury that basically decides whether or not charges will be filed, whether or not somebody will be indicted. So this is a mess for any potential criminal charges, because how could you even get a pool of people for a grand jury to decide, if this is legit?
Yeah, it seems really weird, and it seems really weird that his lawyers would go ahead with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know what is going on here. And Bobbi Brown, actually, surprisingly, he has stayed super quiet throughout all of this. I mean, we actually, as much of a hot mess as Bobbi Brown is known for being, he's stayed so quiet. I mean, he's not the one running to the media, talking, leaking documents. It's all come from, either, people on the periphery in the Houston family or people on the periphery in the Brown family. So really, Bobbi Brown, at some point, he's going to need to do a sit-down interview and, lay this all out, because he's really the only, it's crazy that I'm about to call Bobbi Brown credible, but he's the only credible kind of source of information for everything that's going on, right? I mean, he's her father, he's her next of kin, he's the one that, has the legal team. So we need to hear from Bobbi Brown, because there's just way too much kind of random information floating around. And I would hope that in the coming weeks or months he will do that, because it's just crazy. We need to let this poor woman, rest in peace, and her mother.
Yeah.
But I also
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just to first off, obviously that's a huge bomb to just drop and just be like, no, this was a murder. Casually just sort of bring that into the play. But also, I feel like she never really stood a chance, really, because she grew up around so much drugs and so much chaos, and, which I know is a cliche thing for a kid growing up, the daughter of two musicians, but they were so famously in and out of trouble for that stuff. It's kind of like she was so young. She was 22 years old, right? She just really didn't have a chance. So I feel like you can't, even if this wasn't how it happened, and if it wasn't her boyfriend or her partner that specifically did this, I kind of feel like this was in a way going to be the outcome for her no matter what, right? Like there was going to be a lot of addiction and substance abuse and stuff like that, because she grew up around that from day one.
She did, and it was documented for years on their reality show, right?
Yeah.
So they had a reality show when she was super young. She was probably a preteen when that was on the air, and you would see them just partying. She was always out with her mom. Just that lifestyle, being exposed to it so young. It's really, really sad. But what's so messy now is just all this kind of lingering stuff. And it's unproven murder accusations, basically. But for Nick Gordon, could you imagine having that kind of spotlight on you?
Yeah, really.
Where do you go? How do you? It's crazy. So yeah, that's definitely it's a sad, tragic, really warped hot mess story, but definitely a hot mess nonetheless.
But it might never, and maybe that book will never close, because look at Brittany Murphy. They never really figured that out. They were just kind of like, oh, well, they just both weirdly died, and the end.
Yeah.
They never, and then there was the mom was a suspect and all this stuff, and just kind of was
sometimes it just
closed.
happens like that. If it never goes to criminal trial, it probably will just kind of remain an open-ended question forever, right? So, and it does, from what we hear, reports out of Atlanta, out of, that county in Georgia, it doesn't sound like their prosecutors are moving in on any sort of case. It's all being done civilly, which really kind of tells you something, right? Because a civil case is purely for money. So,
well, and
I don't even.
Yeah, does he even have any?
I was just gonna say, right? What it's filing a civil case against Nick Gordon is completely just gesture, right?
Yeah.
Because what kind of money are you going to collect from him?
It just seems like it's really more sort of cementing the court of public opinion, right? They want everyone to think that he is to blame. And this is the easiest way to get the press to cover that and to get that.
Absolutely.
Because it's
when you file something, that makes it legitimate, and then people can report on it, right?
Yeah.
Because until then, you can't really report on it unless something's been filed. Once there's like a document in a court, well, now I can report that document's been filed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely, it's a PR game, a little bit of a PR game going on here.
And it's a little bit gross.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. But these families, I mean, like the Houston Brown families have been going at it in the media for years, right?
Yeah.
And now the big question is, like, Whitney's fortune. I mean, who gets, like, so now that's what it's all about now at this point, because Bobbi Kristina inherited her mother's fortune.
Right.
So now that they're both gone, well, where does the money go? And if Nick Gordon was living with Bobbi Kristina as like her common law spouse,
right,
he might have a claim, right? So I think now that's what it's coming down to. It's like it's the money that's at stake here. So
it's really sad that, first of all, not only after Whitney Houston died was there already people looking out to get her money.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, yes, it went to Bobbi Kristina, but she's young. I'm sure there are, when there's major fortunes at stake, there's always people who think I can manipulate the young person, right?
Yeah.
But
Right.
and it's sad though that like 2 deaths later, there's still sort of fights raging on about this money.
Did she leave a lot
No.
behind though? Like,
Winnie Houston?
yeah.
I think she left a fairly substantial, I don't know the number
Yeah.
off the top
Really,
of my
eh?
head, but I mean, tens of millions. Yeah, I mean, for sure. And I mean, she's somebody who, in a similar fashion to Michael Jackson, who will make money forever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
That kind of album collection, that estate's always going to make money.
Yeah.
So this is, and I think the Jacksons are still fighting over the money, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah.
these things never end, and like so is Robin Williams' family. I think I think
Yeah.
these things never end. Whenever there's somebody of that caliber of fame and royalties that kind of are in, just go on forever, I think these legal battles in families just continue. Super messy.
It's very sad and unfortunate. Man, money changes everything, eh?
Yeah.
It really does, but I take some and see how it goes, If somebody wants to, like, send a few million my way, I mean...
Sure. Don't get me wrong. I don't have any, and I would love to have
Yeah.
a lot.
Right, exactly.
But-
right. Those of us on the outside were like, man, we'll give it a try. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
But I do like to think that if I was related to someone who had a ton of money, like, I wouldn't contest their will or, you know what I mean? I like to think I would be better behaved after someone's death if I didn't get the cut of money that I
You just
thought I
silently
should have.
hope.
Like, yeah, I mean, I've never been in that situation, so I can't say, oh, I wouldn't do this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But, you mentioned the Jackson family, and I will say, speaking of hot messes, have you seen Joe Jackson's girlfriend?
No, I have not seen Joe Jackson's
Googling that.
girlfriend.
Oh, Giselle Phelps. Google that right now. He is dating a young woman. She looks like she's probably in her 30s, but is one of those dresses like she's 18 going to the club.
Okay.
And so when I first saw the picture, I was like, who is this with Joe Jackson? What is happening here? And then it was like Joe Jackson's girlfriend. And I was like, yikes.
Oh, gosh, I just saw it.
Yeah. Right? What?
Yeah.
But again, she wants a piece of that Jackson pie. Like,
Yeah.
she does,
But that's that's largely what makes her a hot mess. You know what? Because I make fun of what she wears and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But if she wasn't dating a wicked old guy for his money, I would be like, whatever,
Right.
dress however you want. But the fact that she also, on top of her fashion choices is like, yeah, I'm going to date this guy who was a terrible father and is still trying to get a piece of his son's money. For that money, it makes her extra super hot messy.
Maybe he's a good kisser. You don't know.
But I think if you're going to be a gold digger and go for like a disgustingly creepy old guy who's like 40 years older than you,
Yeah.
I think you need to go all in. Like, I think you need to go all in, and that includes horribly fitting, slutty outfits, right?
No,
So, I
absolutely.
mean, if you're going to go for it, you're not going to show up in like a Chanel suit looking classy. You're going to be wearing something from Sirens. I mean, you're going to have on, that's the look. You're going all in.
Now, that's interesting. Do they have Sirens in the States?
Oh, I don't know, but that's what comes to mind. I don't know. But when I think of like...
No, exactly. With everyone in Canada, Sirens is the go-to, like... I was just wondering, since you've been in the States for so long, I was like, oh, is it international? I thought it was just a Canadian slut store.
I think it is just a Canadian thing. But, during my youth of going to the clubs, I think that's probably where I got my outfit.
Oh, listen, as teenagers, we all shopped at Sirens.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, there are Sirens, equals here.
For sure.
But I think if I was going to date like a man 40 years older than me for his money, I would really go all
Sure.
in. Like, it would just be boobs up to my chin, like 6-inch heels. Like, I probably have some ridiculously big hair.
Well, you got to feel like you're earning the money somehow, right?
It's a job.
Yeah.
It's a job because you have to, like, make out with him, right? So it's a job. Yeah, it's like that's your costume. That's basically like your work uniform.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Thank you.
Really hate on her.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Giselle.
He's 87, by the way.
Well,
Ooh, he's 87. So
Yeah.
old.
87.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
earning every cent.
But I
She's
bet
earning
you-
every-
She is earning it, right?
Yeah, she's earning every steak dinner, every trip. Yeah, go girl. More
But I bet
power to
you
I
he,
couldn't do it.
you know what's like a 75-year-old.
Dean, you're the worst. The website is hotmessfolder.com. Will you join us again, Giselle?
Absolutely. You guys were fun. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it was great talking to you.
Thank you.
And getting us all up to date on the messiness.
Yeah.
And we do have to take one more break, and then we got to wrap this day up.
Aw,
I know.
don't want to.
Today, the role of Ward Anderson has been played by Dean Young.
Well,
we
no.
will be back to wrap. No, I know
You know,
no
I
one
couldn't
can
hold
do
a
Ward like
candle.
Ward. We will be back to wrap up the day after this. You're listening to Ward and Al on Sirius XM channel 167.